Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Traitors RHAP Up podcast here on the RHAP network. I'm, of course, your host, Pooya and Brian. With me, my lovely co-host, Brian Scally. And with us, the incredible, the winner of Survivor 41, it is Erika. Erika, the sorrow heard round the world last night when you were the first to be banished. How are you feeling at this hour?
Good. You know what? At least I get another title, right? The winner of Survivor 41 and the loser of the Traitors Canada season 1.
See, I made the mistake and said banished, murdered, which is a lot worse,
Yes.
which is what happened.
Well, it depends. I think that getting murdered is probably easier on the ego than the banish, right? At least I think I'm going for a breakfast and I die versus having everybody point fingers at me at the round table. So I think I went out good.
There you go. Yeah, I think you can wear it as a badge of honor. They were too worried about you. Now, obviously, coming in as the winner of Survivor, were you worried that this was a possible fate that you might be met with, unfortunately?
Oh, 100%. When I walked in there, so when I went into Survivor, I knew I had been underestimated my whole life. That was the game I was going to play using that perception. And then going into the Traitors, it might have been one of the only situations in my life where I walked in and I was a Goliath. I had arguably the biggest profile of any of the players there, and there weren't a lot of other players who had been on a social strategy game before. So yes, I knew that it was a possibility, but then I also knew that with Traitors, there's not really anything you can do about murdering. So I just played to not get banished. And obviously, I mean, I didn't get banished, so at least I was successful there.
We'll take that as a win. We'll take that as a win.
Yeah, win's a win.
So, Erika, had you watched the other Traitors franchises in the lead up to being on the Traitors yourself?
Yes. So when I got the call to be on the Traitors Canada, I had never watched them. I had heard about it. I heard people like them. And then I decided to watch the show because I was visiting my parents. To be honest, I was on the fence about doing another reality show. I'm like, I don't know. But I watched the US version and my parents loved it. And they were like, you have to do the show. You have to do the show. And plus, I have a group of friends that I would play Mafia with all of the time. We actually played so often that we had to stop because we were able to pick up on everybody's lies so quickly. So for me, I was like, okay, you know what? The filming schedule is way shorter than filming Survivor for 2 months out in the jungle. Well, 1 month, but then you're gone for 2 months. And then I also thought it's a game that I've played so many times. So I'm like, okay, let's just go in and have fun.
There you go. Now, so since you had played a ton of Mafia and watched the Traitors before this, were you coming in hoping to be a faithful like you were, or were you really hoping to be a traitor ultimately?
Oh, I went back and forth on this, to be honest. When I was getting ready to do the show, I knew I had everything it took to be a really strong traitor, but the major target I had on me in terms of being a winner of Survivor, I knew that that would put me in a difficult position as both a faithful and a traitor, but I think especially as a traitor. And then once I got into the manor and I met people and I saw there was literally someone there who saw me and they were stunned and they said that I was the one who inspired them to finally be on a reality show, and now they're playing with me, which was honestly so sweet and so humbling. But in the context of a game where it matters what people think about you, and I'm like, oh no, this is not good for me. So once I got in there, I was like, you know what? I think that I might have to take the uphill battle of being a faithful. But it turns out no path was the right path for me in this game.
So getting on with one of the early scenes we see you in, you have this trio forming with the Big Brother Canada folks and Kuzi and Kevin. How invested were you in that group of three?
Well, it was day one. So on day one, you make your alliances with whoever. I actually really was looking forward to working with that group of three, simply because when you think about the game and you think about the Traitors from almost like a meta level, the selection of traitors, there needs to be at least one person who is from a reality show and at least one person who is capable of being a traitor. And who is best positioned to be a traitor other than the people who have come from a social strategy game? So I was thinking, there is, of the three of us, someone here needs to be a traitor. I know it's not me, so one of the two of them need to be a traitor. And knowing that I have such a target on me, I think that my best line of defense is to actually use the skill and the target I have to position it as almost like protection for the other people who would recognize like how much of my target actually is. So I was invested because I was thinking one of these people needs to be a traitor, and if I'm going to be able to stay, I need to make them believe that I will be there to protect them and I will be a potential shield for them.
Now, along that line of thinking, did you feel very betrayed all of a sudden when you are then the first murderer, thinking one of those two is probably up there in Traitor's Tower? And did you think that it was a maybe questionable move on their part?
I didn't feel betrayed because I get it. It's a game. It came up while I was there that people were like, "Oh, wow, you won $1 million US here in Canada, huh?" So I knew that it was always a possibility. So I can't be upset at anybody for murdering me. I was a little surprised because I thought that if we're thinking about playing the game as through a strategic lens, I thought that I wasn't necessarily an obvious first murder because I thought that someone would want to keep me around because I would always be a distraction for them. I'd always be someone who is so easy to throw suspicion onto, no matter what I do, even if I played socially perfectly, because I'm a survivor winner, there would always be reason to throw me under the bus and to potentially paint me to be a traitor. So I thought that for the shield potential, I could at least last a bit longer. And also it didn't show on TV, but in all of my confessionals, I was saying, if I can just last 2 days, I'm going to get to the end and I'm going to win. And I didn't last 2 days.
Yeah, I think some people might have known that too, and maybe that's why they were a little worried to take you out day one.
Yeah.
So in your time at Traitors, was there anybody you were suspicious of? Now, obviously, you've mentioned that you thought one of us reality stars got it. And you mentioned the other one could be someone who'd be savvy. Who were the savvy ones that you were looking at during your time?
I mean, I was there for such a short time, so it's so hard to really identify who the traitors are, especially when you think about it. I wasn't even there for a banishment, so there were no real opportunities to get that real tangible information. You're just going off of vibes, which ultimately doesn't mean anything at this point. What I was thinking about the night that I was there and I went to bed is I made a list of the people who I thought were for sure faithfuls and the people who I thought were potentially traitors, but I needed more information. So where I was proud is I was correct in all of my lists. The people I knew for sure were faithfuls were correct. And even though the traitors, I don't think I knew like the exact 3 or 4 of them, but everyone who was a traitor was on that list for me.
There you go. That's successful. Yeah, that's the thing is, again, if they had kept you around, I think you would have been pretty dangerous. So I understand both sides of it.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think it would have been tough for them. Now, how'd you ultimately become a traitor there? And so you have Kevin and Kuzi, and murdering one of them might throw some sus off of you, because why would you kill your fellow reality stars? Would you have made that same move, Erika, or would you have held off for a little while?
So if I was a traitor, would I have killed Kuzi or Kevin? No, I wouldn't, because I would have kept them in, because again, they're always going to be a lightning rod for attention. So I'm like, keep them in, especially again, as another player who played a social strategy game who comes in as a winner. You want to keep those people in who are going to be able to take that attention off of you. So I think I probably would have chosen a civilian who is not necessarily making waves and leaving the wave makers, so to speak, in the game.
If you were to get called up and they're like, Erika, we didn't get enough of a dose of you season 1, come through for season 2. Are you packing your bags? Are you making the trip?
I would need to know. I'm like, I know they can't tell me the cast, but I'm like, okay, am I playing against other reality stars? Am I playing against civilians? Because I think that ultimately what tanked me was the composition of the cast. And I love everyone. I think that they're so fun. I think it's going to be an amazing season to watch. But I think that perhaps if it was a makeup of a season similar to Traitors US season 2, where it's all reality stars, I would potentially consider it. But yeah, I would listen to see what they had to offer.
All right. Well, our fingers are firmly crossed for another run for Erika.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I do feel like just talking to you here and obviously having watched you on Survivor, we were robbed of at least a round table presence for you, because I feel like that would have been so much fun to watch play out.
I know it's so funny watching the show because there were certain things where I was like, oh, I knew they were thinking that, or I knew this person was lying about it. And if I just was in there for one more day, perhaps I could have changed something. But this is the hand I was dealt, and at least I had fun.
And hey, you said it yourself. You said, listen, I'm just gonna go home. I'm gonna cry by $1 million, but I'm gonna be fine. So we love that. That was we got a good laugh out of that one.
Good.
All righty. Well, Erika, thank you so much for giving us your time. We really do appreciate it. It is, again, as two big Survivor fans here with you, it's an honor to get to talk to you. And Rob did say that he wanted to say a hello to you and say sorry he missed you here. But we got to talk to you, so his loss, our gain.
Hey, I will take it. And tell Rob I say hello, and I say hello to everybody.
Appreciate that from you. Erika, thank you so much. We hope you have a lovely day.
Thank you. You too.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Traitors RHAP podcast over here on RHAP. Of course, my name is Pooya and Brian. I'm here with my co-host Brian Scally, and we're here with the lovely Collin Johnson. Collin, sad to see you go. First banished over here. How are you feeling out the gate?
Well, I'll tell you what. Tonight when I watched the episode, it brought back a lot of feelings that I had at that moment when we were filming, and it was a little rough, but by the time the episode wrapped, it still felt pretty good. Pretty proud of just being there and having that great experience.
Yeah. Was it everything that you were expecting going in, or were you blindsided by how playing the Traitors actually ended up being? How did you feel about your experience?
Well, I got to meet a lot of really awesome people. I kind of knew that going in. I was going to meet some pretty cool people that I've never met before, and that was fun. Yeah, I got a little blindsided, obviously, on the second episode. It was right near the end too, so because most of the day went really well, and then just near the end, it was kind of caught me off guard. So yeah, it is what it is. Kind of when it happened, though, I was like, "Yep, well, this makes sense."
What was your knowledge on Traitors coming in? Had you watched any of the other franchises beforehand?
Yeah, it was shortly before filming. I started getting into Traitors UK. I really liked that one and polished that off. It took a little while just because with work and everything, but finished that off. And then shortly after that, I was on this show.
Nice. So you got a good sense of the chaos that the Traitors can be coming in.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was only there for a short while, but it was chaos. Like right before on that second episode, and they portrayed it really well. When I watched it, it was very true to exactly how it played out in real life. So, yeah, it was interesting. I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I've seen exactly what's going on right now. I feel like, oh my god, like I've seen this episode. Yeah. So, yeah, I kind of saw that coming.
It is a very unique situation that you're in, because I feel like what started the sus, so to speak, on you was an act of kindness that you had towards Donna. Can you speak to that a little bit for us?
Yeah, for sure. I bumped into Donna when I was walking into the manor, and she was, crying, and she was upset because she thought for sure she was going home. And we had spoken earlier, and I think think some of it's on the episode, but I had already knew what her issues were, and we had talked, and we were also in the car on the ride home from the challenge. So we talked the whole ride back. So I had a good sense of what was going on with her and where she was at. And then she started telling me the story again, and I just told her, I'm like, hey, like, you got a big group of people sitting over there that are, your name's been brought up several times by people that are there. I'm like, why don't you go and tell them? Like, I mean, I already understand where you're coming from, but I mean, if you want to clear the air, now might be a good time because it's getting later in the day. We're going to have roundtable soon, and this might be your only opportunity to get everybody together and, say your piece. And that backfired.
Yeah, especially I feel like once the confusion where it was said that you said the same thing to Dom got brought in and people started getting confused. How was handling that, misinformation and chaos in the game?
Oh, it was crazy. I'm not used to that in my everyday life. So it felt like back in high school, like I heard so and so said something, and and I'm like, okay, how do I deal with this now that I'm an adult? And yeah, so like you see on the episode, I overheard them talking about me, and then they said I did the same thing with Dom, which didn't happen at all. So they brought Dom in. He was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And yeah, and then eventually Donna apologized. She said, oh, it was a miscommunication. It's like, well, a little too late. The damage has been done. And honestly, I think it was on purpose, but but that's the game, right? That's the game. Like you gotta play to win. And I mean, she had a huge target on her back, and she was able to flip that around real quick by, and she told Fierce of all people, right? So Fierce is going to go out there and like, oh, stoke the fire, right? And of course, while all this was happening, I wasn't in the manor when it was unfolding. So I came in when it was like halfway, like people had already started talking about it. So I was trying to like put out fires, like a forest fire with a bucket of water, right? And yeah, once you have a target on your back in this game, as we all know, like especially this early on in the game, it's hard to get it off you, right? Because everybody's looking for that the easy vote that early on, because there's nothing else to really go off of. So as soon as someone's like, well, I heard this, boom, spreads like wildfire. And now everybody's like, okay, I got my vote figured out now. That was easy.
Yeah, it really felt like it was a combination of the miscommunication stuff with Donna and Dom, and then the other thing that you had mentioned, which really people latched onto because, again, they got nothing else to latch onto at that moment, was this whole dialogue about people deserving the money to be the ones to win. Can you clarify for everybody what went down with that and what you meant by that?
Yeah, for sure. I don't remember exactly where I said it. I do remember saying it in probably just some candid conversation I was having with somebody, and not really thinking like this is going to have some major repercussions or anything, because I was just thinking out loud, like, yeah, it'd be nice to see somebody win who, who I guess, who I felt maybe deserved it. Just somebody who, lives just your normal day-to-day life, works a 9 to 5, was lucky enough to get on a show like this, to have this opportunity, right? So I'm seeing it from an outsider's perspective, because when I watch these shows, I'm rooting for the underdog all the time. So I was just thinking out loud. I was like, yeah, it'd be nice to see somebody win it who could really use that money, for their family, or if they're trying to start a business, or whatever their ventures are, right? And then that was twisted into like, well, you don't think the reality stars deserve to win, right? And so yeah, it super backfired on me. And in retrospect, yeah, I should have just kept my mouth shut and not said anything. But I was just saying what I was feeling at the time, and oops, what are you gonna do, right?
Right.
Like it happens.
Well, yeah, especially that early on, right? Like anything you say can and will be used against you at the round table. So, and it was, they took it the wrong way, or maybe they knew exactly what I meant, but they, that's ammunition. So I think that was definitely part of it.
Mm-hmm. Now, so you mentioned the reality stars. I would want to know, coming in, how familiar were you with any of them? Were there any that you had like red flags right away, or that you wanted to work with? How did you perceive them initially?
Well, when I first got there, I didn't really recognize anybody right away. Like, I don't actually watch a lot of reality TV. There's a few shows that I watch, but I mean, none of them were from the shows that I watch. People brought me up to speed really quickly on like a who's who kind of thing before we got to properly introduce each other and stuff. And one of the first people that somebody pointed out was Kevin, right? And they're like, oh, he's Big Brother winner, poker player. I'm like, and that was really the only person that I really heard much about. So a lot of people thought I had it out for Kevin, because I was like, well, he's a poker player, and I'm not, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, well, wait, what about Mike, right? Like Mike's an illusionist, he's a magician who's very much on the same spectrum as Kevin when it comes to reading people and just, being deceitful and stuff like that. And yeah, so I'm really the only ones that were on my radar right away at the beginning was just Kevin and Mike, but I didn't really speak much about Mike on the show because I barely got to really talk to him either. It was trying to get to know everybody in a very short period of time. So it wasn't easy to get to know anybody or make any judgments right away, or like who's doing what kind of thing. And of course, now that you watch the episode, now I'm like, okay, now it makes sense. Yeah, now that you see it from the camera's perspective. So
Who would you say was the person you were closest to in your tenure at the Traitors?
I would say probably Dom. Like me and him used to go for smoke breaks kind of thing. And the camera crew would always be following us around, and we're just like, oh, I just need like a 2 minutes, like have a quick puff, man. And like, the cameras are always there and waiting to catch us talking about something. But we didn't really talk much about the game while we were off on our own. We were just, having a quick puff, and then we were back in the thick of it with all the people. But so I'd say me and him got pretty close. Also, Mary, like me and her had a good, pretty long talk on the boat ride up to the manor on the very first episode there. But I didn't notice a lot of footage from the boat, like the boat ride itself. But we had a really good conversation there. So over the next few days, I think we're pretty close.
Nice. So then were you surprised when ultimately Dom does handle the misinformation as like, I'm not trying to get involved, like he's not really coming to your defense ultimately there? Were you surprised at that or disappointed?
Yeah, the way it played out on the show was because I don't know what else was said. Like if he had told anybody else anything, because I wasn't there and it wasn't on the show, so I don't know what else he said. But the one part where he did say, he's like, I'm not getting involved with this. Yeah, I was kind of hoping he would have said a little bit more, and maybe he did, but it just wasn't on the show. I'm not too sure, but yeah, I was kind of disappointed. I thought he was going to totally take my side and be like, like, what are you guys even talking about? Like, Collin didn't try to get me to do anything, but it played out how it played out.
Yeah. Coming into the roundtable, did you know that it was probably going to be you or Donna? And my additional question to that is, did you have any other name that you were potentially coming in with that you were suspect on?
No. Okay. So coming into the roundtable, I was very much knowing that it was going to be me or Donna, because that's what people talked about for that last bit of the second episode. And that's very much how it played out when we were there. Everybody was talking about it. However, I thought I had a pretty good chance of sticking around after Donna came out and said, sorry, it was a misunderstanding. And then with Dom saying, I'm not getting involved, like he didn't throw me under the bus and say like, oh yeah, that's true, he did do that, So I thought I had quite a few people on my side. And I even called her out. I said, like, the only treacherous thing I've seen so far since I've been here was what Donna did to me by waiting till I wasn't around and then telling people, well, Collin set me up, or he might have set me up to go and apologize to make me look bad. And which I'm pretty sure she knew that wasn't the case, nor did she have to act on it at all. She didn't have to go over there and apologize if she really didn't want to. And I thought everybody would see that. So going into the round table, I thought my chances were pretty good that I was going to be safe. Yeah, but then the other issues came up with me saying, I hope whoever wins is somebody who deserves it. It kind of makes me sound like an ass now. Now that I hear it, it's like, oh, yeah. So I think that was kind of me punching my ticket right there. I think that was probably worse than the whole Donna thing, because I think people saw through the whole Donna, Dom, me, like that miscommunication thing. So yeah, I think it was that plus what I said, and that was enough for them to go, okay, well, you got my vote, because who else are we going to vote for? I mean, there was a few other ones that voted for Donna, which was nice, but not quite enough to save my butt. So.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, as soon as, like you said, word spreads like wildfire in that house, especially in those early rounds. So like one little thing and people are going to jump on it. So it is tough. I do.
Yeah, definitely got convenient for them. My one last question for you here, Collin. You mentioned you'd gone to your room to get your bus driver's license for proof. Did you end up presenting that? Did that end up getting into evidence for the rest of the house there?
Oh, I showed everybody. Yeah. There was because there was a lot of talk. People were saying, "Well, I don't think he's a bus driver. There's no way he's a bus driver." And I'm trying to think. I'm like, okay, well, this is the only way I can prove it is I had my driver's license. I'm like, here, look, here you go, and I showed almost everybody. And then people were like, "Okay, you don't have to show us. We don't really care." It's like, well, there's no way to prove anything in this show at all. It's just, do you believe my word or do you not? And this was the only thing I could think of in the moment to prove that I am not lying about being a bus driver. Like, why would I lie about that? I mean, if I was going to lie about an occupation, I would have made up something way cooler. But no, bus driver it is. So I was hoping that would kind of go, okay, well, if he's not lying about that, maybe he's not lying about, anything else that people are saying.
Yeah,
that was why I did it. Yeah.
They didn't care once they couldn't use it against you anymore. Ultimately, that's what it seems like.
Yeah. It never came up again after that. Really, once I showed the ID, they're like, okay, well, we can't use that.
We did see Rick the Temp at the end of the episode say that he's going to make a very personal and special visit to Thunder Bay to apologize to you directly. So hopefully that did happen. Not
yet, but I'm waiting. I'm saving him a seat at my kitchen table. we have a lot to talk about.
Cameras to that, please.
oh, for sure.
Collin, thank you so much for giving us your time today. It was a delight watching you play. I ultimately gone too soon. Ultimately convenient that you had information out there for you, but hopefully you enjoy the rest of the season as we will, and hopefully we hear from you in the future somewhere down the line.
Yeah, I really hope so. Thank you for having me. It was great.
Of course, take care.
All right, take care, man.